Yes, good old TJ.
Konnichiwa, Yoshino's Boy INCOG, back with another reaction video. And today, guys, we're doing a video called "What Ruined Ben 10." The last time I did a Ben 10 video, it actually did pretty good on the channel, like a while ago. So, this is just about, I guess, like the downward spiral of Ben 10. Because I remember when I was a kid on Cartoon Network, like the shows I watched, like Cartoon Network, you'll watch your Ed and Eddies, your Courage the Cowardly Dogs, your Samurai Jacks, all that type of stuff like that. Ben 10 came around like 2005, 2006, I believe, and I was around the time when I was like in middle school, and it was like at an all-time high. But then I remember once like that first series like was done and dusted, I kind of stopped watching Ben 10, and then they had like made the movie and everything like that, and all these other series in between. And I remember it like going downhill from that point. After that, the series, the first couple seasons that I watched. So actually going in detail about what actually happened to Ben 10 and like what made it like spiral on a downward spiral. I mean, it'd be kind of interesting, I guess, to really learn about it. So this is 18 minutes worth of a video. Like I said, last time I did a Ben 10 type of content on the video, on my channel, it actually did pretty good on the channel. So let's just see if you guys are still interested in this content. All right, so before we get to it, guys, like the video if you like the video so you get out to more people and you guys are enjoying the content that you see here. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Like I said, 80% of you guys are watching my videos are not subscribed, so if you guys go ahead and hit subscribe button, that will actually help me out a lot. Share the video where it's circle stuff. Comment down below your thoughts and everything like that, or any future video ideas you have, or just if you want to just have a discussion in the comments down below, we can have that. Just let me know with leaving a comment down below and everything like that. So without further ado, guys, get right to this. So play.
In the early 2000s, Man of Action was brought down to Cartoon Network to pitch 20 ideas in 20 minutes. The idea that got picked up went into development and shaped itself into what we know today as Ben 10 Classic. The show lined up nicely with the new rise of action cartoons.
Oh yeah,
Conan
Conan's the War Teen Titans, yeah.
World building and story development. If you ask any Ben 10 fan, you'd come to find that what draws people to the show more often than not is the universe it has created. Every alien that Ben turns into has a species, homeworld, and something to learn about it. It was always special whenever Ben met another one of his aliens he could turn into. And in the beginning of Ben 10's reign, despite it being a cartoon after all, it had a sense of reality tied to it. The adventures felt grounded. There were themes of exploration and mystery, with all different elements of sci-fi and fiction the trio would encounter. There were mutants, mages, knights, alternate dimensions, time travel, but it was all tied together and made sense. Nothing it did ever felt like a legitimate stretch.
Right,
and the art style, of course, was far better than it needed to be. The classic series really built the foundation of what could have been one of the most successful animated franchises of all time. But how do we go from that to this?
That's around the time I started watching it.
I'm Kuro the Artist, and I'm going to go over the legacy that is the Ben 10 franchise.
I say the beginning of it, like the first couple seasons I watched, but then afterwards I just stopped. It was great about Ben Action. Okay.
The classic 2006 Ben 10 series was unlike anything else airing at the time. While seeming like a typical action cartoon about an adolescent boy with extraordinary abilities, many surprises and charming factors separated it from all of its colleagues. And from the multiple continuations, video games, spin-offs, merchandise, even getting the live-action treatment twice, Cartoon Network was very aware of this too. The first continuation of the series was titled Ben 10 Alien Force. With the original series being successful in world building, humor, and action, Dwayne McDuffie was brought on board to help add a new and less episodic story direction to the series after his success with shows like Static Shock and Justice League Unlimited.
Dang,
this only strengthened the show as a whole.
Dang, I missed that show.
Of the first two seasons with an overall narrative, shaping out the main characters to be more three-dimensional and expressing the consequences and responsibilities Ben must take on at such a young age, with the absence of his then presumed deceased grandfather.
You'll have to take it from here. I know you can do it. I believe in you. In all of you.
At this period of time, Ben 10 was in its prime in terms of quality. This is where things change. Season 3 of Alien Force was perhaps the worst thing that ever came out of the Ben 10 franchise. The characters had changed drastically, subverting a lot of growth they had the previous 2 seasons. The story direction seemed to have an entirely different feel to it, and aside from the first and last 2-part episodes, there was no story arc to follow. Before his passing, Dwayne frequently visited the message boards on his official website, where he would answer questions about all of his work.
This is gone?
But
He's
because of
dead?
its massive popularity, the boards were more or less dominated by Ben 10 fans, including myself. I recall at the time a brief statement about a potential alternate version of Season 3. Apparently, the writers intended to continue down the road they had built during the first 2 seasons. I do not recall much about the statement, as I had read this about 6 or 7 years ago. But the original plans for Season 3 had something to do with Kevin mutating again and struggling to stay sane. Nothing we didn't get a whole lot of down the line anyway. But with the impression that Seasons 1 and 2 of Alien Force originally gave us, I feel as though it would have been tackled a lot more different. And perhaps with that type of subject matter, the network got cold feet and wanted them to remake the story. I actually tried to go back and search for the original statement, but since Dwayne's passing, his website got a design overhaul, and a lot of the old boards are inaccessible.
I did not know the dude that
even
made
when
Ben
using the
10
Wayback
back in
Machine.
that other season
However,
died.
about a year
Wow.
ago, I came
did not know
across
that.
an article that interviewed Eugene's son, who also mentioned there were other plans for Season 3. But when trying to find it again for this video, it was removed as well. He was responsible for both the best and the worst episodes of Season 3, so if anyone knew anything, he probably did. I ended up contacting Eugene's son via Twitter asking him for an interview, and he actually responded saying he's interested, but once I sent the email with the questions, I did not receive a response. The only thing I know for sure is that regardless of the improved storytelling and tone Alien Force had over the classic series, ratings were still higher whenever it was 10-year-old Ben in the spotlight rather than his 15-year-old counterpart. Cartoon Network believed that this was because Ben was more likable when he was acting immature and egotistical, so they demanded for Ben to be more like his child self in the 3rd season in hopes of boosting the ratings. This became very obvious when you watch Ovis Small's video comparing Ben in Season 3 to the previous 2.
I'm sorry I took Morningstar's side over yours. And more important, that I wasn't watching your back.
It wasn't your fault. I guess Morningstar had some kind of control over me.
It was my fault. I was in such a hurry to build our team, I ignored the danger. If I'm going to be a good leader, I'm going to need to show better judgment.
I'm not kidding, Ben. I'm really mad at you.
But you won't stay mad at me. I'm adorable.
You're completely full of yourself.
Which is
This boy just
forgivable
went
because
backwards,
I'm so
what?
adorable.
It's a shame for Ben to lose all of that character development,
Yeah,
and it didn't
he just
even boost
like
the
he just went
ratings.
backwards.
Perhaps we will never learn the true story behind what the original plans for Season 3 were, and why the network requested them to change the story. But whatever it was, it gave us the haphazardly thrown together Season 3 that we all know and acknowledge today. When Season 3 ended, it left Ben with a device called the Ultimatrix, another version of the Omnitrix that lacked some features the original had, but gave Ben the option to evolve his aliens into their ultimate forms. No doubt a gimmick to try to attract attention to more viewers. The concept was interesting, but the execution was a bit poor, which unfortunately becomes a trend with how things happen in the show until its ending. For one, out of the 33 aliens Ben had at the time, only 6 of them had ultimate forms, and they were rarely used. By the end of the series, he only unlocked 2 more. Some forms had improvements over the original selves, offering new looks and an expansion of their powers, while some, like Cannonball, just grew spikes. However, Ultimate Alien seemed to be a hit. Ben 10 was practically the SpongeBob of Cartoon Network at the time, getting the most treatment in their crossover games like Punch Time Explosion, Fusion Fall, and TKO, having its own roller coaster, weird Asian theater performances, tons of merchandise, and a CGI tie-in movie that revisited young Ben's adventures. Ben had more character development in Ultimate Alien than he did in any other show, dealing with multiple upon multiple losses, death, rage, mortality, and fame.
Maybe you've forgotten something. I'm Ben Tennyson, wielder of the most powerful weapon in the universe. I stopped the hybrid invasion. I defeated Vilgax in hand-to-hand combat. And I've beaten the Forever Knights more times than I can count.
What brought Ultimate Alien down is the show still had to compensate for the events of Alien Force Season 3. The show didn't get too heavily into retcons until Omniverse, so Ultimate Alien still tried to fit into the story that Alien Force had left it. Despite how many lessons Ben had learned or obstacles he overcame, he would still slip into his 10-year-old self's personality should the story call for it. That was perhaps the biggest problem with Ultimate Alien,
That's so
as
stupid,
plot
though.
and characters were very story-dominated. Dagon, a multi-dimensional demon, claimed Gwen was the most powerful being in her universe. But if you ever need to take her out, just throw a very average-looking welding torch at her and that's it.
Stop the clam guy! We'll think of something!
Remember that time you flew, Gwen? It would also switch between story episodes and filler episodes unrhythmically, where in one episode they learn of the Map of Infinity, which is the start of Season 2's half of the story arc, and in the very next episode, they're helping his childhood bullies with their web show. This isn't to say that the filler episodes are a bad thing, but the episodes themselves fall short of interest, and would cycle themselves into the main story at the worst of times, making it hard for viewers to maintain an interest into what's actually happening. The idea versus execution issue carries itself all the way to the end, where Vilgax has fused with the Dagon, and Ben wields Ascalon along with the Ultimatrix. Sounds like the making of an epic battle with over 100 episodes worth of buildup.
And here we are again. Me, on the cusp of total victory. You, the last man standing. Who will it be? Diamond Head? Swamp Fire? One of your tiresome ultimate aliens? Perhaps you have yet another new transformation to spring on me.
The fight lasts for less than a minute and consists of them running at each other and Ben stabs him.
You stabbed me.
And that's it. It's over. This inconsistency in tone led to a decline in viewership.
Anticlimactic.
Cartoon Network decided Ben 10 needed one last overhaul, and the world was introduced to Ben 10 Omniverse. The idea of Ben 10 Omniverse was to take the best elements of all three previous shows and stitch them together into something congruent, and flesh out the world beyond just Ben, Gwen, and Kevin. This ended up not being the case. I recall the very first promotional image of Ben 10 Omniverse that ever appeared, which is this image right here. Almost
Oh god,
immediately,
no.
there was backlash from the fans. Before I continue, I would like to say I really appreciate Omniverse's art style. It allowed for more dynamic movement and expressions, the backgrounds were impeccably detailed, and the ensemble cast of characters brought new life into the show. I believe the reason people did not like Omniverse is just due to change. For instance, when Teen Titans Go premiered, the art style was the fanbase's biggest problem, and praised how the original Teen Titans looked. The story is the same with Ben 10, as people were bashful towards the new art style and praised how the Ultimate Alien Force era looked. However, both Teen Titans and Omniverse have the same art style, being designed by Derek J. Wyatt, who is also responsible for Transformers Animated and Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, two other shows that were renowned for their bold and fresh execution of their franchises. I would also like to point out the difference between art style and animation. Art style is how the characters are designed and presented, while animation is the actual movement of the characters, and how they interact with themselves and their environment. When people say the animation
Art
of
style
Omniverse
definitely
is
changed
bad,
up a little
I
bit.
think they are confused with the art style, as the animation is far superior to Ultimate Alien Force, but is still not quite on par with the classic series. Moving on, the network also wanted to further push for Ben to suppress himself into his younger roots, even featuring episodes based entirely around his younger self, in hopes of emulating the success of the classic series. What the network does not understand is that what gives the classic series its charm is because it is Ben's origin. It starts Ben off with his cocky and immature self and grows him into a more responsible and combative hero. We enjoy watching young Ben because he's yet to experience the universe-threatening situations he will in the future, but after he already has, him regressing back into his previous personality is almost insulting, as if everything he went through did not mean anything. So Omniverse, yet again, negates the character development from Ultimate Alien in favor of keeping Ben immature and impulsive. Omniverse really wanted to push for the younger audience that it would advertise more of the comedic moments of the show rather than the action-orientated moments.
The newest Cartoon Network original series, Ben 10 Alien Force. A new Ben, a new Gwen, and new aliens.
Ben is back with Rock by his side,
We did it, buddy!
with more aliens.
It would also highlight the newer and more colorful transformations, like blocks. At this point, Ben 10 has distanced itself so far from its grounded feeling. I apologize, but there is no way you can convince me there is an entire planet of these sentient Lego gorillas, yet here he is in the show. If you try picturing blocks in the classic series continuity, it just wouldn't make sense. Ben 10 Omniverse also suffered the most out of the series by tons of executive meddling. Episodes would get aired out of order, causing continuity problems, like events getting brought up before they even happened, and Ben using aliens he had not yet unlocked. Bandai also had an influence over the production of Omniverse, requesting for there to be a way for one alien to use another alien's abilities, for the sole fact that they could build a toy line around it, leading to the creation of Skurd, a slimebiot that attaches himself to the Omnitrix and samples the DNA into weapons themed around Ben's transformations. Because why not? Ben 10 Omniverse didn't really seem like it had an idea of what kind of show it wanted to be until far later into its run, as seasons 6 through 8 almost felt like a completely different show than seasons 1 through 4, with season 5 being the bridge in between the two eras. But by that time, it was already too late. Ben 10 got the majority of its funding by toy sales, and with the show being out for so long and taking a more mature tone shift, the audience grew older. The fan base was still there, but they were losing interest in buying toys and merchandise. Cartoon Network hoped to use Omniverse to gain more viewers from a younger audience, but that only resulted in them losing the majority of the fans they already had, based on their advertisements.
The first ever Ben 10.
I use Blocks as an example a lot, as I am personally not a fan of him, but I believe he did play a big part in Omniverse's downfall, as it gave the impression of the show being more childlike than it actually was, and treated him as the staple alien of the show's advertisements, like Heat Blast and Swampfire were to the previous series. However, in the show, Blocks isn't used nearly as much as the advertisements would convince you, and the show tackled a lot more complicated elements further down the line, sometimes even surpassing Ultimate Alien. But with the decline of toy sales, Omniverse was losing its funding, and Cartoon Network burned off the final 3 seasons at 6 a.m. time slots with no advertising, in hopes to make back some of the money and tax returns by purposely giving the show bad ratings. It was a similar fate that Generator Rex had suffered previously. Omniverse was failing, and Cartoon Network set it up to crash and burn in its end. Ben 10 was a series of constant changes. In characters, continuity, tone, and art style, it made it very challenging to be a fan of the show all the way through. If there was something key you liked about the show, chances are it would be changed down the line. With its universe being imploded on by network demands over and over, what other option was there to just start over and reboot it? I'll admit, I am not a huge fan of the reboot, but that is because it is not for me. I think the art style is fun, and at first glance seems like another Steven Universe ripoff, but it has many elements that gives it its own charm.
Wait, is that
Sound
literally
familiar?
a reboot?
The
of
animation
what it looks
is
like
also
now?
very smooth, which can be fully perceived during the transformation sequences. There is no doubt it is a downgrade from the original franchise, though. The characters do not have distinct personalities, especially Grandpa Max, who may as well not even be in the episodes. And aside from the Omnitrix 4-part special, none of the episodes really matter in terms of storytelling. It's a show made to entertain kids and sell toys, and it seems to be doing very well for itself. The problem with the reboot is it implies a list of expectations that the previous 4 shows have set for it, and it does not meet any of them. You have to treat the show like its own entity, even though it carries the Ben 10 name. I have come to terms with the existence of the reboot, and if it comes down to it, you may even call me a supporter, but I still believe that our Ben Tennyson still has stories to tell. We never got to see him put the Master Control to everyday use, or see him on his path to becoming Ben 10,000. People may argue that once a character has reached his limits in terms of power, in Ben's case, mastering Alien X, that their stories are rendered obsolete, and there is nowhere else to go. I would argue that if your stories are solely based around how powerful the hero must be to defeat the villain, you're not telling a good story. Ben can have Master Control and be a leader in the Plumber Academy, and still tell a compelling story. This is where 5 years later comes in. 5 years later is a crossover continuation of Danny Phantom and the original Ben 10 saga, giving each show their well-deserved ending, as they were both mistreated by their networks towards the end of their run. It is written in a way that any reader can understand what is happening, them being a fan of only one franchise or neither. If you have never seen Ben 10 or Danny Phantom, you could still follow and enjoy the story. The first 4 chapters are available at kurothewebsite.com, with the 5th chapter set to release this December 27th, on Ben 10's 12th anniversary. If you enjoy the story, please tell your friends, and join our Discord to discuss the series, share art, and meet other passionate fans of the franchises. Being a Ben 10 fan was not just a hobby. It was an experience. The message boards, the speculation of new aliens, and the theories about how the logistics of the show would apply to the reality we live in. It may not seem like much, but if you give it a try, you can understand why there are more passionate fans than casual ones. And it is truly 10 of a kind. Thank you so much for watching my video. You can stay up to date with my projects on all of my social medias listed below. And check out my best work on my
Alright, so we're going off right there. We're ruined Ben 10. Like, subscribe on the video, guys. Boy, INCOG, I am out. Peace.